So in the last video, I showed you how we establish information priority in terms of information architecture. Now we're going to take that one step forward, and I want you to see how that information priority turns into an IA specification model. All right, now it's becoming real. Now we're starting to talk about what could potentially be primary and secondary navigation. How do we categorize and subcategorize those things in a way that respects the priority that we just established? So if you remember, the things that were most important to people were what the company was previously calling frequently asked questions. Well, instead of that, because FAQ is the kind of thing where it's just a generic term, it doesn't mean anything to anybody, we suggested that they phrase that as questions and answers. You ask, we answer. So first and foremost, we're saying to people, if you have questions, we are willing to answer them. That sends a very clear message. So that's first. Next, if you remember, plans were very important. Plan services and plan documentation so that people could look and maybe print them out and see them later. So in this case, what we're doing is we're splitting this up to follow the model and the best practice of progressive disclosure. You've heard me say that before, and you're going to hear me say it many more times. It's the most important principle of good user experience design. It means that whenever a user is presented with something that they're not ready to process yet, it's considered noise. They ignore it. So you share a little bit, and then you give them the opportunity to dig down a little bit deeper if they need to. So what we're doing is we're saying, here are our plans. You want to know about our plans? Here's what they are. High level, this is what we offer. Then, if you need details on a specific plan, you can go to a services page that describes the plan in more detail, what it offers, what it does for you, and then documentation that you can look at, print out, and read at your leisure. We could very well put both of these things at this level. We could have two links that say plan services and plan docs. It's not a good idea. Too much information is just that too much, okay? People, when they see the word plans, the brain makes an association, says, that's what we're after, let's go there. That's all you want to happen. You don't want to confuse that process. You don't want people to have to think too hard as to what they're going to find. So we start with plans, and then we drill down into services and documentations. The next piece was the ability to request more information, request a phone call, to learn more. We're phrasing that differently as well. Instead of request information form or information request form or whatever the verbiage was, we're saying, need help? Got you covered, okay? The phrasing has everything to do with how this is received. So then they go to a form where they can request more information. So again, the way this is presented has a profound effect on whether people will actually visit the link or not. So you can see that the three core pieces of information priority are now showing up as main points of navigation. Okay, we know this is how we want to structure our information in terms of making it, match people's expectations and their sense of importance. Finally, we said that the news and events pieces were secondary. So we're just sort of segregating them off to the side here. They're not even in boxes. They're visually less important in this diagram, okay, because they're not as important. We say, okay, we may have a secondary menu maybe up top that contains news, events, contact us, about us, all the typical things that people want, but none of those things are the reason they came here in the first place, all right? So I hope you can see how information priority starts to turn itself into an information architecture spec, which eventually turns itself into a sitemap and a UI design, all right? Let's keep going.